Welcome, my name is Aaron Rogers and I'm a last year grad student at the University of Memphis. Today, we'll be looking into transient advantages and their impact on the overall strategy in which an organization chooses to engage. First, we'll look at a cornerstone of the current strategy, competitive advantages. Looking at competitive advantages, we have to ask ourselves, what exactly is a competitive advantage? Competitive advantages can range from customer lists to patents to proprietary manufacturing processes. Up to this point, these have been an essential part in an organization becoming an industry leader. Competitive advantages have a launch and a ramp-up phase before a business can begin to exploit them for profit. Once the market adjusts, companies must then reconfigure and disengage them, making them obsolete. Because markets are adjusting quicker, developing these competitive advantages produce lower and lower returns. In light of the fleeting nature of competitive advantages, you have to ask yourself, is my company falling behind? There are ways you can tell if this is the case, a few of which are if you yourself are not buying your products, if other cheaper solutions are good enough, if competition is surprising you, or just a lack of excitement in general about your organization. There are 7 beliefs that keep organizations from pursuing transient advantages. First mover is best. Being the best now means we will always be the best. Our quality is good enough. We are focused on the right things. We can only do the things that fit our business model. Bigger is always better. And innovate only when necessary. So, to create transient advantages, your paradigm must shift. To do this, there are several strategies you can implement. The first is to think in terms of arenas, not industries. This forces you to anticipate competition from non-traditional sources that may steal your customers if you are unprepared. Being that rigid industries do not necessarily exist within the framework of a transient advantage, companies should define themselves very broadly. This allows its first-line employees the opportunity to drift away from some of the clearly defined jobs that would exist within a more traditional business model. Focusing on metrics that only consider a few variables, like net present value, which considers financial return, is a surefire way to stifle a transient advantage. Having metrics like real options, where you essentially pay a small amount for some trial and error, afford a company the flexibility to pursue new projects with more than immediate financial returns to offer. The sooner an organization realizes that customers are not purchasing goods and services, but experiences and solutions, the better the company will perform in the long run in developing transient advantages. So often do organizations focus on selling a drill bit, they forget that the customer is really paying for the hole it creates. Besides money, obviously, the currency of business is relationships. Managing these relationships within the organization and both ways up the supply chain is a significant source of advantage, as you will not only attract some of the best talent, but you will maintain high customer retention, which translates into long-term sustainability. Divestitures should be avoided whenever possible. Not only does this create ill will in a community of people that were laid off, but it represents a significant loss of core competencies which could have been repurposed to another area. The negative effects of this can also be amplified if the divestiture requires customers to buy into a new product or service. A poorly performed plan is better than no plan at all. Companies should have a plan and structure in place for how they approach innovation. Having resources planned for innovation keeps it from being pushed to the side, and the structure allows management to help guide where the innovation best fits in with the current portfolio of offerings. Instead of using the same techniques for trying to bring a new good to market, it is important to try new things and allow the organization to take some calculated risks outside of the norm. Only when an organization breaks out of its traditional mold and stretches its comfort zone will they experience a culture of innovation and growth. The only way to effectively lead an organization forward in the ambiguous world of transient advantages is to have key principles that govern how your company will operate in the marketplace instead of clearly defining what your company will do. Focusing on a general framework and supporting innovation will produce corporate sustainability and long-term advantages. Finally, and probably one of the most important factors in leading an organization through a transient advantage marketplace, is speed. By having a continued focus on the broad arenas and an eye on the future, companies can get ahead of changes in the competitive landscape and thrive in any economic condition.